Hi, I'm Tony Maws from Craigie on Maine. I was thinking that for most people, it's only about once a year that you ever get to break down the turkey, and here we are, Thanksgiving upon us yet again. So I figured I'd give you guys a little look into how I break down a turkey. Of course, there's more than one way. I don't want to see any emails from any haters out there about saying how I'm doing it wrong or anything like that. This is the way I break down a turkey. I'm going to try to just sort of spell it out for you so that if this is your once a year opportunity, you're not messing it up for your entire family and you're actually giving people something that looks and tastes awesome. There are tons of websites out there and articles about how to cook a turkey. This is not going to be about that. I would definitely look up Ken Gialt's articles in Serious Eats and New York Times. This week has some fantastic stuff about how to cook a turkey. There's certainly more than one way to do that, and there's more than one way to butcher a bird, but here we go. So what I have here, I have a big meat fork, and you could use a regular fork, no problem. And I've got my slicing knife. It's a big Japanese fancy slicing knife. What's really important is that you just have a sharp knife. If you're breaking out a knife that you only use once a year, I highly recommend that you take it to someone to get it sharpened just before Thanksgiving. Even if this is the only time of the year you're going to be doing it, it'll just make your life so much easier. I remember going to a Thanksgiving a couple years ago where I had to butcher the bird, and one of my family members who shall remain nameless gave me basically a butter knife. And they were all looking at me as like, why can't this chef cut this bird, as I basically tore it to pieces. So have a sharp knife. First thing I'm going to do here is, so I truss it just lightly, so I'm going to cut the twine, take that off. I did really basic truss just to basically hold it together, where I put the twine right below the wishbone by the wing, brought it up to the breast, and then a quick crisscross underneath the legs to tie it together. Nothing fancy, no needles, just tied it together. So I like to take the wing off first, and what I do is I pull the wing back, and a lot about butchering isn't about cutting through things, it's separating what we call seams. So you have what's the drumette and then this wing, and a lot of that wants to come apart at the joint anyways, and all I'm doing with my knife is basically easing the process. If I have to saw at this, there's something wrong. Either my turkey is not cooked properly or I'm not heading in the right direction, but you can see with just very little effort I can get that wing bone off. And I'll do another one on this side for you to see. So again, I just pull it back lightly, and I'm not doing any hard work. It wants to come off. It's a perfectly cooked turkey. And then that's all I'm doing is taking that off, and I'll put it on this platter right here. Okay? The next thing I do is I'm going to come in here and just give it a little tilt. Juicy bird. And I'm going to get this drumette off. I made an incision right above where the joint is, and now I'm just pulling it back and finding the joint. There's the joint right there, and I'm just giving little cuts, nothing hard, not sawing at it, and taking it off nice and gently, doing very little work along the way. If you're working hard, something is wrong. Okay, same thing. Juicy, juicy bird. So make an incision right there, and just sort of pull it back. Keep on cutting as I pull. And it basically tells me where to go. There you go. You cannot be afraid to get messy when you're carving your turkey. Okay, now I've got the legs, the breast, and the rest of the carcass. And I'm just going to pull this back, and it's going to be the same philosophy. There's a joint that's holding this leg and thigh together right there, and I'm going to get at it by basically just using a lot of leverage as I sort of pull it away, and it's going to show me where I want to go. So I'm going to make a small incision right there, and I'm going to sort of separate it lightly and pull back until it pops. And you can just see how it popped right there. And then I'm going to come to this bone right here and just follow it down. Again, it's telling me where to go. I'm going to go into that joint, and it's basically about to come off. I'm going to try to do this without tearing the skin too much, because I like eating as much of my turkey meat as possible with the skin still on. Now I'm going to go to this side, and we'll do the same thing. Making a small incision. I'll even come around here and give it a little help. And one of the things that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to cut on the inside of the leg, not on the breast. This way, I'm leaving more of the skin on the breast if I cut basically by pushing on this side. Pop, hear that pop? Pop, go in there, get the oyster, this little piece of meat, widely regarded as one of the best pieces of meat on the entire bird. It's called the oyster. Follow the bone down, and then I have this beautiful leg. What I'm going to do here, you can decide whether or not you want to completely debone this. But the simple thing is, this is a V, and everyone sort of struggles with it. Don't feel like you have to give it your all on the first part. First of all, in the V, you're going to go right through the center. Find the joint, you can almost feel it, and then you're just going to go right through. But don't sit there and try to like, because you're just going to have a really nasty time. I'm going to do the same thing here. It's a V. I'm going to basically go through the center, find the joint, and go right through. So I'm going to take this leg, put it on an awesome platter. So with the thighs, if you wanted to bone this out, and just be able to cut the dark meat, let me show you what to do. You're going to flip this over, and I went to a slightly smaller knife, sharp, what I call a petty, or some people call a paring knife. Okay, and you can see the bone is going right along there, and you can almost see how there's a seam or meat right there. So I'm just going to follow that, and again, going really gently, and I can even use my meat fork to hold this in place while I'm going right along the bone, very, very, very gently. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the other side. Do the same thing. And just cut this away. Go back in. Go under the bone with the knife. Always cutting away from you, except for when it's under the bone, and that way you're protected. Okay, and I'm just going to carve this out. And any of the good morsels that are stuck on that bone are going to be for me or my son Charlie. And then you've got this nice piece of meat that you can feel free to cut, whether in slices or just in big hunks, or however it is that you want to do it. But it's much easier, more manageable, perhaps with the bone out, and that's what you can do. Hold on, we gotta taste this thing. Pretty bomb. Okay, I'm gonna go back and get some more of this juice. I don't want to lose the juice. Don't lose the juice. At the very least, this has to go back into your gravy. Okay, so here we are now, down to the breast and the rest of the carcass. What I'm going to do, hold this in place one way or another so it doesn't move on me. I'm going to come in here, okay, and I'm going to follow this breastbone just off to one side, because obviously two breasts, okay, and I'm going to go straight down and cut this skin straight through. There is the wishbone there, so I can't follow it down to the bone, but I want to just cut that skin right there. Okay? And then, using my fingers, pull it back. And if it's too hot, it probably means that your turkey hasn't rested long enough. You really need to make sure that you don't just carve your turkey minutes after it came out of the oven. Okay? So, just following it down, pulling it away, pulling it right down to the bone, falling right along that breastbone, right down to the joint, and you can see it's pretty effortless. I'm letting the weight of the meat pretty much let it pull itself off the carcass. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Gently, right there, separate it, pull this down. It's going to give it a little spin move. A little disco spin move. Follow this straight down. Anyone can see in there. Right down. Look, it just tumbles right off. It's really, really moist board. Look how juicy that is. Okay? And then we've got two breasts off of the awesome carcass. Okay? This is what we call the poke's nose. Again, one of my favorite nibbles. One of the privileges of being the person who gets to carve the bone is you get to pick the meat. Not a bad privilege. That's delicious. Alright. We'll save this carcass for either some picking or chopping. So of course we can make an awesome stock or soup with it. Here we are with the breast. Regardless of how big your breast is, did I just say that? Yeah. That's kind of cool. All right, so One thing you have to do is make sure that you're cutting the breast against the grain. So you do not want to start cutting it this way. It's just going to be a little bit chewier. You're going to be following the grain. The grain goes this way, so I'm going to cut it this way. This is where the knife comes in really handy because it just holds it in place. So with my sharp knife, I can put very little pressure. However you decide to present it, that is up to you. People in my family fight over that kind of stuff too, and you can certainly make sure that that's set on the side. Otherwise, people begin asking questions. Nice and delicate. Again, I'm not putting any real pressure on the breast. I'm just letting the knife do all the work. It comes out really, really nicely like that. So just to review all the pieces, we've got our wings, we've got the drumettes, we've got the thighs, one of them I deboned, we've got the legs. We've got the breast that we've sliced, and we've got the carcass. And we've got the Pope's nose, which I need to taste yet again. So that's a good thing. We've got the juice, and these are the makings of an awesome Thanksgiving turkey. Next up, I'm going to use an electric knife. I've never actually used an electric knife before, but whenever I hear stories about carving turkeys, inevitably something comes back to, oh, my dad has this electric knife, isn't that funny? And I never actually used one. My grandfather used to use an electric knife, and while I love my grandfather, it didn't exactly do a bang-up job. So I wanted to see what it looked like, and whether or not it was actually worth exploring that as a possibility for the future. So I'll be right back with another turkey and my electric knife. Alright, so this just came in the mail. My Cuisinart electric knife. Again, I cannot say that I'm an experienced electric knife user. I'm going to see if I'm going to be convinced. I've been brought up in kitchens to think that Japanese fancy knives are the way to go. But I've heard stories that in certain circumstances an electric knife can actually be an awesome thing. So I'm going to use the same technique, the same direction as I was doing on my other bird with this, except for I'm going to use an electric knife and see how it goes. If there's any food splatters, just beware. Here we go. You might not be able to hear me, but I'm going into the wings first. Ready? Here we go. So far, so good. Let's see what we can do. Turn this around. So I'm going to do the tilt, and I'm going to go for the drumette. Yowza. It's a little scary. You don't really feel like you have control. But I can see why it could be an appealing thing if you did not already have a sharp knife. It actually does a decent job with the skin. I was afraid that I was going to tear it, but so far the results are okay. Yeehaw! There we go. Do it one more time. Who would have thunk? Who would have thunk? I'm actually motoring right through this puppy. So I don't know if it's just because this is brand new and the blades are sharp, but it's actually doing, now I get a little bit of the hang of it, pretty bang up job. I don't know if I'm going to trade in my own knives, but it's certainly not a bad alternative. Pretty clean. Now let's see how it does in the actual slicing model. As we've got our carcass there. I think that this is actually where it might excel, because clearly it's going through the skin really, really nicely. Surprisingly, not making a mess. Look at that. I'm verging on being a man convinced. One more time, just for good measure. Hot damn, look at that. I'm going into the turkey business with this knife. Well, there you go. Wait, I still get the bits and pieces. Looks like it's pretty easy to clean up. Considering I have to cook 3 turkeys for the 20-something people that I'm going to be cooking for on Thanksgiving, this guy might come in pretty handy, especially if chances are I've had a couple scotches while I'm doing it. So in sum, with these 2 turkeys, one of them carved with my sharp knife and one of them carved with the Cuisinart electric knife. Actually, pleasantly surprised by the results of using the electric knife. And if anything, even the delicate cuts like the breast with the skin, I think it did a much superior job. So as a self-professed knife snob, and I'm looking here thinking like, wow, what else can I be doing with this electric knife? But again, good luck with you and your turkey on Thanksgiving. I hope you guys have an awesome time. We'll see you here at Craigie, Maine soon.